Yeah, yeah. Although I can pretend it's morning, I'll feel like I'm not as behind as I actually am. Thanks for having me back. Hopefully,
So,
this is a more successful conversation than last
yeah.
time.
So are you saying that we're the ones putting you late to deadline? Is that it? Is that it?
No,
You can
no,
blame
no,
us. You can blame us. That's
no.
fine.
All fault is mine.
All right. Well, yeah, tell our listeners that real quickly who don't know, and most of them do know. Of course, the history of National Review is rich, and it's been a conservative, thinking man's magazine for a long time. But tell us a little bit of the history.
Yeah, it was founded, of course, by William F. Buckley Jr. in 1955, and one thing that I think we've been consistently doing through the present hour is, and literally, so with the immigration debate and other things going on, is have robust debates amongst conservatives, and really hash things out. We have all types of conservatives writing for us. Frequently, we publish things I don't necessarily agree with, under people's bylines, debating issues of marriage and things like that. But for instance, on marriage, I think our views are consistent with yours and your
Right.
listeners. But it's important to have these debates out in the open and to convince your colleagues, right? And so anyhow, I hope people visit National Review online, and we have our fortnightly magazine, and which I encourage people to subscribe to if they don't already.
Let's talk about the immigration, debate, because that's going on in Congress right now. The so-called comprehensive immigration reform that's taking place, and I guess the Senate, and then it'll go to the House. No, anyway, what do you think about that? Because it sounds like to me, Marco Rubio, he the senator from Florida, the freshman, he took the lead on this for Republicans, but then Jeff Sessions from Alabama, his colleague, Republican, sort of took the other side and led that group. I don't know. It's going to pass the Senate. I don't know what the margin is going to be. But what disturbs me is this, we were told, Kathryn, maybe you have some insights on this, or maybe I have bad information, but we were told that border security would be first and foremost on the agenda.
Right.
And then you can talk about other things related to immigration reform. But then I hear, people that I trust say there's really not any teeth to this border control argument that they're making. In other words, where we get serious about stopping the flow of illegal immigration into America. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, your information isn't bad at all. I listened to the senator himself in a briefing in the office I'm sitting in right now on Capitol Hill. In fact, say that the problem. I mean, this is not the most profound analysis, but I think this would resonate with people. I mean, the thing is a big old mess, and the concern.
Wait, we like that. We like that terminology here at American Family
Big old
Radio.
mess.
Just a big old mess.
And people are comparing it to the health care bill with good reason. We have to pass it before we know what's in it, kind of thing. Yeah. This is not the way to make law, right? And the word comprehensive is it should be a word of caution, I think, at this point in American history. There's so many facets of this. It's so complicated, and the concerns that people had, people friendly to Marco Rubio, people who understand that we need reform, have really seemed to have played out, where he wasn't in the lead in this. This was
Chuck Schumer.
Exactly, who
the liberal senator from New York
has to have the White House sign off, right? And the White House sign off with the labor unions and everyone else, all of their allies, who don't necessarily want the border security to come first or at all. They've been in the driver's seat, and I really feel for Rubio, and Paul Ryan has been working in the House in similar ways, because they do feel a moral responsibility, and we do have a moral responsibility to secure our borders, to treat people who were here, who came here, whether they were fleeing persecution or economic mess, poverty, whatever the reason for being here. They're here because we haven't been controlling our borders, right? And so there's so many facets of justice issues here. But yeah, big old mess.
I agree with you. I agree. There's dual responsibility here, and I don't think we're going to disagree on this, Kathryn. But I don't want to forget that yes, people are here because we haven't done a good enough job of securing our border, but we're also here because the people who came here illegally didn't give a rip about our laws.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, they didn't care that we were a sovereign country and they were breaking the law to enter it. They just came anyway. And so I don't want to give them a pass on that, because Mexico, for example, they defend their own borders on the southern part of their country in particular, and they do so vigorously. And they don't have lax enforcement like we do here. They take it very, very seriously, as well they should, because they're a sovereign country and they should. Yeah. But when it comes to our border,
they want to know who's there. They want to know who's in their country.
They want to know who's there. So I'm not saying that the people here who are here illegally are less than human.
And let me also
shouldn't be treated with dignity. I'm just saying that let's not forget that they broke the law to get here too.
And let me spread
which is why, again, it is a big old mess.
Yeah.
Well, let me spread the blame a little further too, and let me say that there are plenty of businesses and companies who certainly took advantage to cheap labor and turned a blind eye. And I've heard of chicken plants in Mississippi where you have used to be INS, coming into the parking lot, and they would have to shut down the chicken plant because everybody who was illegal was running for cover. So there's certainly enough blame to go along. What is most disappointing to me, perhaps most, I don't know where you draw the line, but I get disappointed once again with the men and women in Washington who are supposed to be looking out for our best interests. You have John McCain, who in 2008, when he's running for president, said, man, we are going to, border security is number one. We're not doing anything else until then. He's flip-flopped. Now you have Republicans saying, no, we're absolutely going to take care of border security. But now we're hearing there's a loophole in the Gang of Eight immigration bill that would allow Janet Napolitano, who's the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. She apparently is going to be given the power and authority to simply nix the border fence, for example, if she doesn't think it's an appropriate allocation of resources, all the while where Republicans are telling us, no, we are going to secure that border. So
Republicans.
Yes, some Republicans. So I get tired of the people who are supposed to have our best interests at heart treating us like idiots. I guess that's what they seem to be depending on, that we're going to be idiots. We're going to say, oh,
and we're not idiots.
And we're not idiots. You can just ask us. Kathryn. We'll tell you.
Well, and
thank you for letting me rant, by the way.
Uninterrupted.
Well, the most positive, I guess, spin on some of the people in Washington is perhaps some of them do believe, and I think this is probably the case with Senator Rubio for a little while. If they can make the case in the public square, maybe the legislation will follow. But I think that's a naive view of how lawmaking takes place.
I think you're talking to Kathryn Lopez from nationalreview.com. Nationalreview.com. We're talking about the immigration reform bill that's in the Congress right now. It's in the Senate being discussed, and then it'll go over to the House. A lot of speculation that it will not survive a House vote. But it is, so we'll have to see how that goes. Because primarily, I think of what you just said, border security is not a priority here, and that's what most Americans I think,
At least want to start with.
They want to start with
that.
Let's start. It's kind of the old stop digging the hole.
Right.
Well, get rid of your shovel.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll start talking about what to do about the hole we're
Yeah.
in. But let's stop digging. So that situation. How do you view this, Kathryn? I know your last name is Lopez, so you're of Hispanic origin. True?
Yes, someone in my family came from Spain.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess how do American Hispanics? Have you talked to a lot of these American Hispanics? How do they view this issue? Because it's framed as if you're opposed to this bill, that you're against Hispanic people, and I don't think that's fair. But that's how that's being positioned, at least by the liberal media.
Yeah, no, that's not fair at all, and it's also not fair the way some of the media has covered this is to suggest that the Republicans are only any Republicans who are for reform are cynically trying to buy the Hispanic vote, which again isn't fair because no voting bloc is a monolith.
Right.
This comes up time and again with women, right? Just because you're a woman doesn't mean you're pro-abortion, or particularly or hold a particular set of views. Same here with this population, and to suggest that no Hispanics want any border security is not a fair assessment, and is simplifying things, needless to say.
What's interesting too here, I think, if you just want to look at this sheerly from a political standpoint, okay, just raw politics, that's what I'm talking about here, votes.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not saying that's the sole reason why you should look at an issue by any means. You should look at the morality of
and your
issue.
principles,
Sure, you should look at that first and foremost. But if you just want to look at this from a raw political angle, I don't see how this benefits Republicans at all. In fact, I think you could argue that, the Hispanic community already voted for President Obama, 70-30?
I think that's it. I think it's the tabulation from the 2012.
70-30. These are people who are here who are registered to vote and are legal.
Right.
And they're voting for the Democrat on a presidential level, the very liberal Democrat, 70-30. So I don't think, despite what some conservatives argue, that Hispanic people are naturally inclined to conservatism.
Right.
I think that may be true on a family level. Most of them are Catholics, and so they would subscribe to the teachings of the church on abortion, for example, and they would not agree with homosexual marriage. But that's not going to stop them. The social issues are not going to stop them from voting for people who believe in big government socialism, like what they've experienced maybe in their home country of Mexico or other countries in the South. So that's what they're used to. So that's what they're going to vote for, given an opportunity when they come to America. So that's just talking raw politics and numbers. I just think that it benefits the Democrat Party tremendously to have this thing passed. What do you think about my analysis right there?
Well, yeah, no. Obviously, there's truth to that. The additional point one would make, though, and I think Senator Rubio and others would make, is that first of all, you're never going to have a winning coalition if you write off, a segment that vast of voters. And ultimately, a conservative vision of America is one that an immigrant population would find compelling if it was presented to them in a compelling way. This is an argument that Paul Ryan keeps making, Rand Paul and others.
Well, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all.
Well,
I think that's pie in the sky stuff, because Ronald Reagan gave amnesty to the Americans. And I'm not arguing with you, Kathryn, by the way.
Sure.
But Ronald Reagan helped lead the effort for amnesty
in 1986.
In 1986 for largely the Hispanic community. Then there was no loyalty to him or the Democratic Party or the Republican Party for that. So I don't think I think that's pie in the sky. If you think that if these folks were going to vote conservative, they vote conservative now. They're